How the heck did you guys get away with Judy's nipple shot? How did that chain of events come about?
We, well, you heard about that, huh?
Yeah,
We,
well,
we were taping blackouts out in the field. And so we were taping one end and another end. And Judy was taping some body credits, we called it, where we would write words on the
yeah.
body. And then nobody knew where first of all, we had to get the words approved. But then the problem became where they were going to appear. That was also a problem. Well, Judy was at one end. And so she took off her bra. It was keeping Julie's brassiere on was always a major accomplishment. And so she did that, and they painted petals, made it into a flower on her nipple. Well, when it came on, I said, "Hey guys, this is come on, I know what that is." They said, "What?" I said, "You know what?" So we had so we cut it down to finally the shot was 2 seconds.
Yes.
Put it on there, and 2 seconds, and the network. What was that? What was that? Finally, when they could stop tape and they saw what it was, they were said, "Well, you put a nipple on here." You're kidding. I did? How did I know? Why didn't I know about this? But it was part of the danger. It was part of the danger. And the difference in the Smothers Brothers and Laugh-In is the CBS clamped down on the Smothers Brothers and wouldn't let them do it all either. And NBC clamped down on us. And I said, "Why don't you cancel me?" They said, "Well, we can't cancel." I said,
Well,
"Fine, go away." So we were so close to air by the time we finished editing. We were editing in one room and airing the show in another room. So by the time they told us we couldn't do something, we'd already done it. It sounds like we were a bunch of bad children, and I guess we were, And I was very young, and I didn't need much sleep, and we had this group of writers, brilliant writers, that came in, but they were not straight variety show writers. They were saloon comics. They were all different kinds of things, and they came in with these stacks of scripts, and we would tape and tape and tape, and then if something worked, we would do it again, and then if it didn't work, we'd do it over. It was a free fall. It was like accident had a lot to do with our success.
happy accidents. Now, you mentioned earlier Lily Tomlin, and Lily wrote the foreword to your new book, Still Laughing, and rose to fame as Ernestine and on Laughing. And she could not have been more glowing in her praise for you and how you treated her on that first casting session. What do you remember about that meeting, and what did you immediately know you were going to hire her?
Well, she came up and she had two things that she was not happy with. So she came up for a meeting, which she didn't want to take. And she sat down in the office in a big chair and started creating these characters that she had, right? Well, the secret with Laughing is we could do all of them because we did them. We would tape it and then do something else and then tape another one. So in one show, Lily would do 5, 6, 7 different characters. So it was a free fall, an environmental comedy where she could do anything, say anything, and make it up. And if she had an idea, we would put it on right then. And the next week it would be on the show. We didn't have to submit. We had to submit scripts, but by the time they waded through the script, it was too
It was
late.
done.
Already been on. Well, that worked so well for Lily, and she still remains probably. I mean, and I've worked with a lot of people, but no character comedian was ever funnier than Lily Tomlin, and ever more cooperative because she would come in and take a script and put on a costume and become that character in front of your eyes. And I cherish the times we spent with Lily.
Sometime after Laughing, you produced what I think may be the first all African American comedy or comedy special with Red Fox, Pearl Bailey. In
Yeah.
Norman, Is That You? Where did the idea for that come from, and how hard or not hard was it for you to pitch it to the studios at
Well, a
that time?
wonderful woman, Sherry Lansing, had been on Laugh-In, and then as a dancer, and she eventually rose to become the president of MGM, and we were very friendly, and so we took this thing nobody would touch. First of all, Norman Is That You was a gay couple, and it had been on Broadway, got great review, but it closed after 5 days because of the subject matter and whatever. So I bought it. And then I took it, we couldn't sell it anywhere. So we did it black. Red Fox couldn't get on television because of his material. And
Hmm.
Pearl Bailey hadn't been on television. So we took that and put it into this black family and then took it to Sherry Lansing at NBA and MGM. And so she put it on the air, but we had to do it on videotape with multiple cameras. And we shot that show in about 8 days, I think, and put it on the air right away. And it was super low budget, but it did huge because Red Fox was very, very funny and Pearl was funny. And so then what happened was the show got great reviews and it exploded because it was the first all black, all gay subject matter on major network film. And but then Red realized what it was, and so then he wanted $25,000 an interview to do interviews. So the show opened, did very, very well wherever it appeared, but we couldn't get Red Fox to do any interviews.
So promotion started to hurt on that end.
Red was a rascal anyhow. You know, we did his first time he'd ever been on network television when it was acceptable, and we did him as the first black president, and interviewing Slappy White, the first African American president. And he said, "We notice all the people in your cabinet are black. Why aren't there no white people?" He said, ain't no black people, ain't no white people owe me money." Well, that went on with the black president, and Norman, and that did well. See, most of my biggest, you managed to find and pinpoint most of my adventures, and some of which were not successes at the time, but became successes later. And Red Fox and Pearl Bailey and the gay couples and all that were part of the reason. Part of the reason for my success was how close I came to failure and overcame it, becoming a success.
Looking back at your career in TV and in comedy, how much of a hand do you think Laugh-In had on the eventual creation of, say, Saturday Night Live? Because that's the only show that comes to mind. You were mentioning earlier that there isn't even, they do the hair, the makeup, the changes, it's live. How much of a hand do you think Laugh-In had on the eventual creation of SNL?
Oh, huge. He was one of the writers. And strangely enough, Lorne Michaels, I'd heard about him. He was in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I hired him. He came from Canada. He went right to Dan and Dick's dressing room, where he spent most of his time. And he's a great politician, was not a great writer.
What would you say was the real role of a TV producer back in your day? I mean, what was the one skill you needed to have in the job more than anything else back then?
Well, they had to have acceptability. The performers had to believe them, and the producer came in and put together traditional thing of a song, dialogue, another song, sketch, and it was all just pieces and so forth. Laugh-In was a barrage of bits and pieces and sight gags and music and then monologues. And so Laugh-In was a different experience. And Saturday Night Live was compared to Laugh-In because it was a successful comedy show, but there was no comparison in what we did because we took advantage of the new technology that was available on television with editing videotape. We had shot the show on videotape, transferred it to film so we could have edge numbers, edited the show on film, and then edited the tape to match the film. It was like a 4-week editing process. And when you look at it today, you're looking and you say, wow, how did they do this? It was technically impossible when we did it, but it remains one of my favorite accomplishments. And it was not the first thing I did. I had a pretty good reputation going into Laugh-In because I'd had big success with Dinah Shore and Judy Carne and so forth. So when we came out with Laugh-In, NBC had nothing to put on Monday night at 8 o'clock. So they accepted it and they reluctantly aired it.
It was an easy sell because they had nothing to lose. And then once you had it, they had everything to lose.
And me.
Exactly.
I said, why don't you cancel it? They said, no, could we put it on at 10 o'clock? And no, it's got to go on at 8 o'clock. And with Judy, it's all the people on that show were totally outrageous. Judy Carne and Lily and Joanne, that cast, when you think about that cast, they were brilliant, young character comedians. And it had never been done before. And the fact that it was new and fresh and you were looking at it, you were not just looking at a television show, you were looking at an adventure. And I had a good time.
And it strikes me after speaking with you for a while that if they didn't have somebody like you with the cojones that you had to have, that to stare them down or on certain things, if they had somebody else at the helm, everybody would have ended up with a diluted, softened, weaker show that wouldn't have done as well, right?
My early life resulted in me not being really afraid of anything. And failure was something I'd experienced in every way. So when we came in with that show, and we realized that the time period was desperate, they had nothing to put on opposite Lucy and Gunsmoke, number 1 and 2. And so when we came in the show, NBC bought it reluctantly and put it on the air they said, we can't air this. This isn't a television show. I said, yeah, right. It's a new time. But they had nothing else to do. So they put it on the air. And by the third week, it exploded. And
and it was like drugs. They couldn't, they were now addicted and they couldn't say no anymore.
And I'm not too sure that anybody today has the background or the adventure in my early career that allowed me or forced me to want to take chances, because I was bored. I mean, Dinah Shore was a wonderful experience, and Judy Carne, a wonderful experience, but they would do a song and then another song and a duet. But when Laugh-In got my own sense of humor and my own impatience and my own reluctance with conformity, and that's what made it. That's what made it. And Digby Wolfe was a brilliant writer who had a big hit in Australia, but he got thrown out of Australia. They came in the middle of the night and took him away. And he went to Florida, and he came here, and he was articulate and bright and very informed. And we brought in this group of other young writers, Gene Farmer and Don Rio and Alan Katz and all these young guys who came in who were themselves anarchists and came in with pages. Many times it was unairable, unacceptable material, but well, you fix it just a little bit and you put it on the air, and then you surprise the network and lie to them. It went on, and that's what the audience wanted to see. They wanted to see something that was funny and dangerous, and Laugh-In was both.
Well, and it's the ask for forgiveness rather than permission approach. As
you got it.
As we close, has the job changed at all? I mean, with the changes in TV, it makes me wonder if maybe you just don't find TV producers who are able to get as big and powerful as, say, you were back in the day, or even like a Robert Evans was in movies.
Well, I wasn't that when we started out. I was an accident. And the fact is that the time period had nothing to put in there. So it was a disastrous time period with a show that cost literally nothing. So NBC had no alternative but to throw this on until they got a real show ready. Well, by the third or fourth week, the audience said, wait a minute, there's something happening here. I just miss the feeling of danger in television today. I mean, we see the comics and they're all talking about forbidden subject matter and language and so forth. But as far as the irreverence and the impudence and the attack on the establishment that we enjoyed, and that's what made it. And today, nothing really is being tried that much. I mean, they're trying. There's some brilliant writers in there, some brilliant performers, but I don't feel the sense of adventure. I don't feel the danger. The danger now is in language and subject matter. The secret then is to accept the danger and go do it anyway, because the very guys who tell you can't do that, their jobs are at risk too. And all they needed was Laugh-In. They weren't even going to air it. They said, this isn't a television show. This is just a crazy thing. You and your friends went out and had a good time. I said, you're absolutely right. And so we were in danger of being canceled all the time. Eventually, the Smothers Brothers had the same problems with censors and whatever, but CBS didn't support them like NBC.
They tightened the clamps on them.
That's right. Well, the NBC tried to do that with me too. But you got to understand, this was many years ago. I mean, I'm a piece of work now, but then I was really outraged. And we would go in and say, here's the show. And they'd say, well, we can't air this. It's good, don't. They said, well, no, what are we going to do? I said, air this. And so
I'm not doing anything else. What are you going to do?
They had nothing else to put on the air. By the time it went on in the audience right now, the audience right now would be the same. We wanted something that draws your attention. And so we put it on, took the gamble. And then once the audience saw that, and they saw John Wayne doing jokes and Richard Nixon doing jokes, the audience gravitated to it because there was literally nothing else. Same as now. We got hundreds of shows now and comics, and great comics, but they're doing monologues and little sketches and pieces. But the energy, the adventure that we enjoyed then, I I don't see it on television now. It'll come back. It'll come back. Most of the good things that happen on television are born out of disaster and out of real gamble. And the bigger the gamble, the better your chances are of success. Also, the better your chances are of failure. And I've had a few of those, But the fun I had, I'm not too sure the creative talent is having that kind of fun today. But I miss the feeling of adventure. It's the tightrope walker, It's and you watch the tightrope walker to be entertained, hoping he doesn't fall, but curious to see if he's going to fall. Well, that was my show business, my career.
And I know that we've only touched on the surface of I mean, what is, a number of fantastic stories that are in your book. So
this is the chance.
Yes, go out and get the book, everyone. Still Laughing by George Schlatter, wherever books are sold. You definitely won't regret it. And George, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, thank you. It was fun, and we'll do it again. If you don't get canceled with this interview, I will do it again and take another chance.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm a big fan of yours, and so stay in there. Hang in there.
Well, I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, George Schlatter.
Thank you.